Hello, everybody. Justin Stivers here. Thank you guys for tuning in, listening, watching another episode of the Stivers Show. Excited about my guest today, fellow attorney and friend Michael Goldfarb with Goldfarb Law. Michael, what's going on, sir?
Hi, good morning, Justin. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good. Very good. Well, so we were talking a couple weeks ago, and I know, and I'll let you kind of introduce yourself, but I know you have a unique background and situation where, you're a very successful personal injury attorney. I know do a lot of, catastrophic injuries, but a big range of stuff. And you worked with your dad a little bit, who's also in his own right a very successful personal injury attorney. And then I'm not sure when you all split, but I'm sure you'll tell us a little bit. But you ended out going out on your own, and I guess there's been a kind of night and day difference between how you all have run your practices, which is near and dear to my heart because I'm always kind of advocating for shaking things up a little bit and doing things differently than our predecessors. We certainly can learn a lot, but I think there's a lot that can be changed. So I'm sure we'll talk about that. So very excited about this conversation. But before we dive into any of that, man, I always like to start. Who are you, and what do you do?
Sure, I appreciate that. So obviously, my name is Michael Goldfarb. I'm a personal injury wrongful death attorney. I focus my practice in primarily Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, but I've got cases throughout the state of Florida. A lot of people know what a personal injury attorney is. We handle a variety of injury cases where we try to hold another person accountable for their negligence in causing damages to another. And that ranges from your typical car accident, slip and fall, Uber accidents, negligent security cases, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence. And a couple years ago, I actually handled a significant elevator accident that holds near and dear to my heart because I sort of dived into learning what it takes to become an expert in the area. And that's one of the beauties about being a personal injury lawyer is that whatever case it is, whether it's a dram shop case or whether it's a commercial motor vehicle case or even a products case, we can learn and really become experts in that area. So I've been a lawyer since 2013, going on just about, I guess, 8 years almost now. My story is interesting because I didn't go to law school right after undergrad. I actually worked for a few years at a sports marketing public relations firm right here in Coral Gables, where my office is located. And that experience for 4 years taught me how to sell a product. And I thought that it's an interesting avenue to becoming an advocate as a personal injury attorney or any kind of attorney, because I was pitching my clients' brand or their marketing activity or even the client, and that translated well to advocating for my current clients as a personal injury attorney. So after I had 4 years working at the PR firm, I decided to go to law school. I was always exposed to cases and stories and the courtroom because my dad, Alan Goldfarb, is a very well-respected attorney in Florida. And I would go and sit in on trials back when I was in high school and college. And so I always had an itch to become an attorney and help people that can't fight for themselves or speak for themselves. So it was a natural transition for me. I went to St. Thomas University Law School right here in Miami Gardens, and I graduated, like I said, in late 2012. And then I worked with my dad for about 5-6 years at his firm, and got a great mentorship. He was someone who loved teaching, handled huge cases. He actually had the first texting and driving verdict in Miami-Dade County back in 2011, where he was able to get cell phone records of a defendant driver who was texting while driving a stick shift, and he killed a family. So I sat in on that 2-week trial in front of Judge Buchko years ago. And that was a very interesting situation where he got $8 million. And that kind of put the carrot in front of me saying, I could do this. I sat in the courtroom. I saw the arguments. It gave me the necessary motivation to want to do that. And after growing my book of business for the past 6 years, I realized, let's rip off the Band-Aid. There's no good time to do it. Let's just open up my own shop. I had about 30, 45 of my own cases. And I had some money saved up, and I found an affordable office to take space from. and I opened up my own firm, and here we are almost 3 years later.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, one thing, if you don't have this domain, if it's not taken, I feel like elevatorlaw.com would be a great domain to get if possible, because that's I'm sure a unique niche.
It was that this is actually the 4-year anniversary of that case, of that incident. And something that I think a lot of lawyers can relate to is we have certain cases that stick out in our minds. And we'll remember these cases for our 30+ year career. And this one case, this elevator case, happened at a mall in North Miami. And it was actually the client's 29th birthday. It was 2 days before Christmas. And she went into a glass atrium hydraulic elevator with her 9-year-old daughter to go do some last minute Christmas shopping. And as the elevator was rising up, it detached from its coupling and it came over the packing and it came crashing down in this atrium of a mall. And it was all over the news, and they got stuck in the elevator for 45 minutes, and you could actually see the mother and her daughter in the elevator if you're looking up into the elevator. And I'll never forget that case. And it was hotly contested. We put into litigation right away, got experts, site inspections, depositions. I became a maintenance record guru, looking through different things. And it's just, certain little cases like that will always stand out. And ironically, I still keep in touch with that client today. I always exchange text messages and Christmas wishes and Thanksgiving wishes and birthdays. And something that I want to try to echo to a lot of people that are listening is have your assistant or your staff put your clients' date of birth, birthdays in your calendar, and send them a happy birthday message or a text message or an email. Because when you do that, it shows that you care. And that's something that we try to do every single birthday with every single client, whether it's a current client or an old client. And it's just all about the attention to detail. And not to segue off of what I do, but I just think that's a nice little touch.
No, I think, well, one, that elevator is terrifying to think about because I'm in elevators all day long every day. But two, that point, that keeping in touch with contact or with clients, past and present, and going the extra mile. I actually, as of filming this, I had just hired somebody, and I was kind of doing my intro onboarding call with her, and I was just kind of explaining what we do. And I said, listen, to some extent, what I do and what a lot of attorneys do, there's going to be some degree of skill. Certainly, some attorneys will be better, but and that will differentiate you. But one of the things that will really differentiate you is that in this day and age is that you have to, you should have always been doing this, but certainly now there's so much competition and there's so many other people who do what we do, that the client, the consumer, the person who's injured, certainly in your business where people are injured, certainly in my business where someone's just died, that's, for us, it's an everyday occurrence, right? To us, we become almost sort of numb to it, unfortunately, where it's like, okay, yeah, that was bad, but we deal with that day in, day out. But to our clients, this is, life changing, life altering. And those little things of remembering birthdays, just calling to check in for no other reason, just to say hello and hope you're doing well, sending birthday cards, all those little things that, yeah, they're good for us because it builds goodwill with the client. But really, it's those little things that I think keep this profession, or help shift this profession in a more favorable light, where we're not just seen as, money hungry and all of that. So I think that's awesome. And I think it's a great segue into, talking about the change of profession. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, your, I guess, how when you decided to start your own firm, what did you see needed to change in working with your father?
Sure. So I always wanted to be my own boss. I always wanted to dictate my time and my fees. And I think as lawyers, fees make up a lot of hostility or tension in a firm, whether you're an associate or whether you're a partner. Everybody likes to make money. So that typically is really the root of every, business decision, I think, especially right now with the pandemic, is small businesses are struggling and everyone sort of has to look out for themselves to make sure their business survives. But when I was opening up my own firm, it was always I wanted to control my own time, how I did my business, how I ran my business, because as us younger generation of attorneys, I'm paperless. I can do everything remotely. I can do everything with a cell phone or a computer. And the new school thought is being aggressive, being persistent, coming up with creative ideas on how to litigate cases. And my dad got to the point where he wanted to work on these much larger, high damage cases, where I did as well. But I also wanted to handle a lot of other files. So it was a good transition where I had 30, 40 of my own existing files, take those, open up my own shop, still work with him on the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Parkland shooting case that we have. We represent a family in that case. We still have a commercial motor vehicle fatality case where we still work on cases together, which is a really nice and unique situation. Most attorneys that leave a firm don't have that kind of relationship, but it was a perfect time for me to go on my own, do things more modern, be a little bit more aggressive, control my own time. And like I hear from other people who open their own firm, there's never a good time. There's never the right time. You don't know if it's the end of the year, if it's in the middle of the year. You just rip the Band-Aid off and just do it. Some people do it with no cases in their repertoire. Other people do it with a stack of cases. Some people do it with no money. Other people do it with some savings. And it's just, there's no good time. So you just do it and you work hard. We're in our 30s. This is the time we're supposed to work the hardest. It felt like a good time. It was May of 2018. So my firm has been open for almost 3 years, and things are great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I think there is no right time. You can never be too prepared. You're always going to be underprepared in some sense of it. You just kind of have to. And what it sounds like, you kind of are like me. Once you have that itch, it's kind of like there's no turning back. Like once you get that into your head, like you've got to do it. It's just like you got to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Some people are alphas and they want to control everything. I think most attorneys are control freaks anyway. But it's just about getting it done and doing the job and making sure your client understands the goals and the expectations, and just having full control over your files. And I feel like when you achieve what you've set out to at the beginning of a case and bringing your client compensation for another person's negligence in our personal injury wrongful death world, it's a very gratifying experience, because we can't go back in time and hit the reset button on February 14th, 2018, as an example of, the Parkland shooting case. We can't go back and stop time, but we can bring them some form of compensation. And that's what our civil justice system allows us to do.
So one of the things I'm interested to hear your perspective on is, I think a lot of old school attorneys just kind of grew up in this mentality, and even I think younger attorneys to some extent, law schools kind of promote this, where it's kind of like work really, really, really hard and you'll get the good cases, which there's a lot of people who work really, really hard and don't always get the good cases. And I think for a lot, kind of that old school mentality, listen, hard work is, you have to, there's no way around hard work. That's, that to be successful, you have to. But I'm curious as to your experience when you talked about doing sales and working in the PR firm. Do you kind of see how maybe your mindset shifted a little bit from that, hey, let me just be a really great attorney and that will do it, to also there's a business side of running a law firm?
That's a great question. And I think the short answer is it's all about going into the courtroom and banging out verdicts. That's what I think gets you big cases. Obviously with COVID and the pandemic, as we're, recording this today, hopefully we will have some semblance of jury trials towards the end of next year, if a vaccine is distributed and people can get back together to normal life. I think it was a lot easier to try cases when there weren't so many attorneys like there are now today, where cases are getting filed more often. I think jury trials are the best way to grow your reputation. A small firm like myself, I don't advertise. I don't spend lots of money competing against those big advertising firms. So for me, it's all about reputation, client satisfaction. They're going to be the ones that send their family members or their friends to me. obviously, when you have that meeting, whether it's on the phone or Zoom or in person, you need to make sure that you do a good job of selling the client on your experience, and your ability to get the case resolved. But it's a tough challenge. There are so many personal injury attorneys. There are so many good ones in South Florida, um, and it's a competition. It's very, very challenging, but you just gotta make sure you maximize every case to the best of your ability, get it turned over kind of quickly, get the client their money as quickly as you can. And then one of the struggles with our practice is the post-settlement fight of negotiating medical bills down. Lots of people think that once a personal injury case is resolved, client gets their check and you get your fee and it's over. You need to fight medical balances, you need to fight lien holders, you need to do other post-settlement situations in order to get the client money. So to unpack your question as far as selling, it's every single aspect of the business. It's communication, it's getting the case resolved quickly, not taking 5, 6, 7 years to get a case resolved. And then it's just about being responsive and making sure the client knows that you care, and giving them your cell phone number and allowing them to text you, because nowadays people want responsiveness, they want results, and it's just a daily grind.
And do you think that responsiveness and maybe that paperless part, that's a trend from the old school way?
Absolutely. I think modern guys, modern people, modern attorneys, modern firms are able to be responsive immediately. They've got staff that are trained. There's software. There's, obviously most of us are quarantining or not really doing too many traveling or vacations right now. So what else are we going to do other than respond and try to get cases resolved and communicate with clients?
Yeah, it's probably like we like, whereas before we didn't really like getting those calls. Now it's kind of like a welcome change from the only person you speak with is your spouse.
or
That's
your
funny.
kids or whatever it is.
Yeah, or your kids or whatever. Yeah, it's funny. Well, I know we're kind of coming up on our time, but it sounds like, you've, again, I think it's a great example. You're a great example of certainly law firm or attorneys who want to start their own thing, because you're proof that it's very doable, or business person just who wants to start their own thing. And I think I've always admired the personal injury part even more, because you don't get paid right away, right? So you might, you start your own shop, and even if you had those 30, 40 cases, which you did, you may not necessarily know when they're going to settle. It could be a ways out, which I'm sure adds to the stress and the self-doubt and the questions from the spouse about was this a good idea or or not. What what were maybe some, just to kind of leave people listening, what would be some good pieces of advice for that person who's maybe wanting to start their own thing? Like, what would you either do the same, do differently, or any ideas that tips that you would give?
So number one, just do it. If you're thinking about it or indecisive about it, just do it. Step number one. Make sure that you keep your overhead low. Have an affordable office. Obviously, clients are not coming to meet us in our offices right now. Keep your overhead low. I think that is, from any attorney, whether it's a large firm or small firm, keep your overhead low. Um, Make sure you are aggressive and communicating with adjusters and defense counsel, because if you are, they'll know that you want to get results. And I think that, making sure that you turn over files will help you get some money, and get your client paid. As far as marketing, we need to make relationships with people, other referring attorneys. Obviously, I welcome any kind of co-counsel or referral situation, and I refer cases out as well. If there's a practice area that I don't want to specialize in, products liability, I'll refer the case out, and I get lots of other referrals. So keep your networks open. Join alumni relations at your law schools, your high schools, and just pitch yourself to anyone that you meet. Tell them what you do. Try to have a relationship with them. Have business cards with you. Have electronic business cards so you could text. Social media is a dicey game. People think that if you're all over social media perhaps you're too salesy and you're not really grinding in court or in depots. So there's got to be a happy balance on how much you advertise on social media. Are you on Instagram all day? Are you on Facebook all day? When are you doing your actual work? So it's just, I think those are good tips. But just, be really attentive to detail, know your file, know what's going on with your client, be organized, and just eat, sleep, and drink the practice of law, because it's always evolving and we're always working, and it's a gratifying situation.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think there's a lot of great tips that new attorneys and old attorneys can take away from that. So, well, if people want to send you that next big case or get you involved, how can people find you?
Sure. So my office number is 305-433-3200. My email is michael@goldfarblaw.com. I'm available. You can get my cell phone if you call my office. You can message me on social media. You can call me. I'll give my cell phone to people offline, so it's not blasted out on
Smart.
here. But my website is goldfarblaw.com, and I'm right here in Miami. I'm born and raised in Miami. I'm someone that knows the community, and just get in touch any way you feel like.
Awesome, and we'll put links and everything in the show notes. Michael, appreciate it, sir. It was a pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
Good seeing you. Stay safe.
Take care.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.